Now then, back for another vlog. This is May 2024, and you might remember last month I said I was going to be doing this month's vlog from my Lincolnshire syndicate water, and whilst the majority of the footage is from there, unfortunately I'm not there at the moment because normally that lake closes towards the end of May, and this is my first spring on there, so I was really looking forward to fishing it. But the second week of May we had loads of nice warm weather and the carp started to spawn, so it got shut early and none of the big ones have been out. So yeah, missing some really good fishing on a really good lake at the moment. But I've done quite a lot of fishing over the last few weeks, so I can't complain. I've been down to Spooky Pool in Cornwall where I had a really good result. A few days fishing on there, caught some massive fish to 52.5 pounds, which I was really chuffed with. And I've also been over to Trent View, and also I went to Ladywood Lakes where again I had another decent result, fished to mid-30s during a 4-day session over there. So again, they're all for films on the Avid channel, but with regards to my own fishing at the moment, I'm a little bit all over the place because I've got the tickets besides the Lincolnshire one, but the big ones have been out on 2 of those waters. So the chances of them coming out again at the moment probably unlikely. Need to give it a few weeks. And I'm actually over at Girton in Nottinghamshire. Just been down here for a couple of days so far. Had a couple of lovely fish yesterday to 33 pounds, and one of them was a real beautiful carp, real classic shaped, dark coloured common. One of the kind of original fish that's in this lake, because there are quite a few stockies in here, but there's still plenty to come out of this water. It's the time of the year when it does tend to turn on. It's a real deep venue and it tends to turn on sort of back end of May into the middle part of June. That's when the big ones tend to get caught. Now whilst I have caught the big one out here, there are still quite a few other carp in it that I'd like to catch, including a couple of 50-pounders. So it's still worth having a ticket on a water that's only 40 minutes from my home. I'm not sure I'm going to be fishing on here much because I've got plenty of things going on at the moment, and next week I'm off to Germany to fish my syndicate water over there. Really looking forward to that, and hopefully there's going to be a vlog on there if everything goes according to plan. But for now, let's get stuck into my Lincolnshire syndicate water, where you're allowed to do 2 full 5-day trips on that lake per year. Normally it's a 72-hour rule on there, but I've already done one, and that was in November last year when I blanked, and the second one was in April, and I covered the footage of the first half of that trip in my last vlog. So now we're going to pick things up in the second half of that trip when I started getting amongst a few nice fish. This one's a really unusual fish. It's got hardly any scales on this side. Well, there's a few, but wait till I turn it round. Lovely carp though, either way. I'll turn it round. And then when I turn it round, it looks like that. What a lovely carp. I think we've got a stormy night in store. Good carp catching conditions though. Right then, let's have a few words about tactics for this time of the year, because it's fair to say that this lake at the moment, it's been a bit strange. According to the guys that's been members on here for quite a few springs, you know, this is my first spring on here, so I don't know much about it. I've fished a couple of winters, and the first winter was a lot slower than the second winter. The winter that we've just had, the lake fished really well. I think all of last winter there was 10 to 15 fish caught, but this winter there must have been close to 50 fish caught. You heard that right, 50 fish, and a lot of those fish were small ones as well. Been a lot of 20 pounders caught, a lot of 30 pounders, which might sound pretty good on the majority of lakes, but in here there's a massive stock of big fish, and a lot of the smaller fish in here have shown over the winter months. And there's a guy who keeps records of fish catches on this lake. It's something that we have to do. When you've caught a fish, you have to report it to Lee, and he put up on Facebook only quite recently that in the last 10 years that he's been keeping records, during February there's only been, I don't know, 8 or 9 fish caught, but this particular February that's just gone, I think there was about 26, 27 fish caught. So we've had a strange winter, and leading into spring, this spring has definitely been different to previous ones, according to the guys that have fished it regularly over the last few years. So, you know, tactics wise, I'd have expected the shallow waters to do a few bites, and we've got one particular swim on here which is called the shallows, and whilst it's been doing the odd fish, there's not been that many fish getting in there, and they should be in there now. It's quite warm, the fish are really hanging out in the deeper water more than they are the shallows, and it's been strange, it really has. You know, normally at this time of the year I'll be fishing the shallow margins on lakes and expecting the fish to come into those areas because they're the spots that warm up the quickest. That's where the carp tend to appear, but the shallow water spots are not doing anything. And you know, normally I'd be fishing over just bits and pieces. You know, it's that time of the year, they wake up, they've been through winter, they see a bit of bait, they feed on it and you catch them. And normally tactics aren't that important, but at the moment I'm starting to see that I'm getting bites on one particular method but not others. So they are being very picky, that's the point I'm getting at, and I wouldn't expect them to be at this time of the year. And I'm putting actually quite a lot of bait out and they're coming to it. That's what I'm getting my results on at the moment. Whilst when I'm using just little bits and pieces, I'm not getting anything. It's the sort of, not heavy baiting, but the fair amount of bait that's doing fish for me. So we are having a bit of a strange spring, I'd say. And you know, I have switched my bait over quite recently. I've started using more of the SLK on this water, and it has been doing me better fish as well. Since I started using it, my average size of fish has started to pick up a little bit, so there's definitely something in that as well. I do think that particular baits can work well on certain waters more than others can, and I started on here on the bug and I did alright with it, don't get me wrong, I did catch some fish on it, but since I started using the SLK I've definitely started catching better fish on here. And SLK can be a little bit hit and miss, I think. Some waters you go to, it doesn't do many bites, but in other waters you do really well with it. And I've tried the S7 on here as well, which is another one of the DNA's range of baits, and I've not done too well on that one. It's been mostly the SLK that's been doing me bites, and from talking to a few of the guys that fish here regularly, they say that liver baits and shrimpy type baits, krill baits as well, they tend to do a lot of fish on this water, so it makes sense that that bait is doing all right for me. And all I've been doing is fishing either bottom baits or wafters on the hook baits, just straight out the bag, the bottom baits, and sometimes I'm trying the wafters. There's no real difference between the two. That's the one thing I'd say, is that this time of the year you wouldn't normally expect to see a difference between tactics, because the fish are waking up and they pick everything up. It's normally the summertime where fishing gets a little bit tricky, but with here I'm finding that there's not much difference between the bottom baits and the wafters, so you know, that could change in the next couple of weeks before spawning. Hard to say, but you know, springtime normally is, I think, a very obliging time of the year to fish. Wherever you go, the fish are really obliging, but on here it's been really hit and miss. Certain swims are doing the bites, certain tactics are doing the bites, certain depths are doing the bites as well, so it could be an interesting few weeks ahead of us, but at least I'm catching the odd fish here and there at the moment, so it's keeping me smiling. Definitely worth the move today into Footprint. I've done 3 nights in slopes, had 4 fish, and then I've just moved into footprint today, and this is the second one. Maybe a few more in store if I'm lucky. Right, here's an interesting topic for you, because somebody asked me the other day who the best carp angler is that I've ever fished with, and you know, I just can't answer this question, because you know, what makes the best carp angler for a start off? You know, is it somebody that only fishes in England? Is it somebody that fishes overseas? Is it somebody that only fishes day ticket waters or likes fishing carp matches? It's an unanswerable question, but it does make an interesting topic, so I'm going to try and get stuck in here now, because I don't think I could actually say there's one carp angler that I know that's better than another, because once you understand carp fishing, then you know what it's all about. You could probably go to any venue and catch fish. It's then down to the time that you put into your fishing. It's down to how you look at different waters. Do you think that catching a 60 is better than catching a 50? You know, it's one of those unanswerable questions. But for me, if I could pick out bits of some of the carp anglers that I know over the years, I could probably create the best carp angler, and I'm going to try and explain this a little bit now, because I think one of the most fundamental things you need to know is you have to have a knowledge about carp, and probably the one angler that I've met over the years that understood carp, in my mind anyway, better than anybody else, was Rod Hutchinson. And if you speak to any of the generation of carp anglers above me, they'll all probably turn around to you and say that Rod in his younger years was an absolutely phenomenal carp angler. And it's fair to say, in his latter years, when I knew him and when I worked for him, although he still had the mindset of an amazing carp angler, he wasn't the same angler as he was in his younger years. He didn't have the drive and determination, I don't think, as he did in his younger years, but his knowledge was still there. And one of the things that Rod did for me is he made me understand carp. He made me put that at the forefront of me fishing, whereas you see an awful lot of carp anglers nowadays who put rigs at the front of the fishing, or bait, or other topics, you know, tackle, things like that. Whereas Rod was like, well, hang on a minute, if you want to catch carp, you've got to know a little bit about them, you've got to understand them. And it really resonated with me, that did, because it's absolutely common sense. It really is. And there's a lot of people out there, I think, that don't actually understand carp and don't really want to understand carp, which amazes me. Another angler I also know really well, Kev Clifford, he understands carp really well. He has a real good knowledge about carp, and I think that book called Redmere that he wrote, Redmere Pool, with Len Arbery, had some really interesting chapters in there about understanding carp and understanding the carp in Redmere, which I really liked as well. But Kev's really not as much of a carp angler as Rod was. He's more into specimen fishing. But you know, both those guys, amazing anglers. I think you'd also have to put a bit of inventiveness into this topic as well. And some of the best inventive anglers that I've ever fished with, Nashi, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, you've only got to look at the empire that he's built. Okay, it's fair to say that in more recent times it's the younger guys that's made the Nash brand into what it is. But Kev, as a carp angler, I've been on the bank with him and known him for 30 years and seen the sort of things that go through his mind, and he's a very, very inventive angler, and that's always going to put you in good stead. Another amazing inventive carp angler that I know as well, Frank Warwick, you know, probably one of the unsung heroes of carp fishing, really, because he's not the figurehead of a top brand. You know, he should be in my mind, because a lot of Frank's ideas have been stolen by some of the bigger brands and turned into phenomenal products and ideas. Things like the fluoros, you know, the single hook bait fishing, was all invented by Frank, and some of the rig ideas as well was all invented by Frank. An amazing carp angler, and very inventive, and also a great storyteller, which is you probably know about from seeing some of his stuff on the internet, but a lovely bloke as well. I think you'd also have to put a little bit of desire into catching carp into this topic as well, and probably the best person that I know for having a desire to catch carp would have to be Briggsy. You can see it in his results. He's absolutely well driven. He's so driven to go fishing. I think you could chop Briggs' legs off, his arms off, and he'd still find a way to go fishing. He's one of those guys that's just born to go fishing, and you've only got to look at his results to see that as well, and some of the places that he's been to around the world, you know. But there's loads of other carp anglers that I can stick into this equation. People like Hughesy, good angler, doesn't really go fishing for carp so much nowadays, doesn't really get the credit really for his abilities to catch a carp, because he's more interested in being in front of the camera and being a hi, how you doing? That is Rob. But amazing angler. Another guy I'd put in there as well is Jimmy Lightfoot. Really passionate carp angler, and you know, born to fish really. Jimmy, he's a great angler. Probably take him anywhere in the world and he'd catch carp, he'd find a way to catch him. He's a very rugged angler, very durable carp angler, and I think you need that, especially on some of the big waters overseas, and I like that side of Jim. But you know, there's lots of other anglers out there that ain't really that known that I could stick into the equation. You know, we all know somebody on a lake who's quiet and doesn't want his name put all over social media, who's a phenomenal carp angler and go around quietly doing their own business. There's lots of secretive guys out there who are absolutely special carp anglers, but you know, it makes for an interesting topic. There's a lot of other well-known anglers out there that I've never fished with that I'd have to throw into the equation as well. People like Terry, you know, you've only got to see what Tell's caught over the years. Probably the angler in England, I think, that motivates us all to go fishing. I love watching his vlogs, and over the years I've sort of grown up with Tell, and you know, he's inspired us all to go fishing. But another angler I've never fished with, who I'd have to say is probably, in my mind, the one standout carp angler certainly in the modern times is Darryl Peck. I've never fished with Darryl, known him a long time, but you've only got to see what he's caught, you know, the places he's been to catch well, not an 80, but a near 80 pound carp from the Orient, and also having caught 60 pounders from England. Wherever he goes, Darryl, he catches carp. So I think you'd have to say that Darryl Peck is, at the moment, if there's anyone who's close to being the perfect carp angler of this era, it'd have to be Darryl, because of where he goes and what he does. He's just absolutely phenomenal. But it's a subjective topic, isn't it, this? It does make for an interesting debate. I like talking about things like this, and I'm sure it's one of those topics that we all from time to time talk about on the bank with guys next to us and what have you. But there you go, there's a little bit of my input into it. The lake's looking lovely at the minute. All I'm doing now is just waiting for me to get a nice morning bite. Still not ready. Dirty 30. And she goes. God, what a carp. And what a fight as well. This one put up a real good scrap this morning. Just finishing my breakfast. Mega conditions on a mega lake. You might remember that last month I took a brief look at the RVS range of luggage from Avid Carp. Well, this month I want to show you the new RVS 3-rod sleeves from within that range. Now, if like me you're fed up of having to force set-up rods into small rod carryalls, then take a look at these, as they might be just what you're after. Made from a hard-wearing 600D Oxford fabric and featuring a heavy-duty 10mm zip, they're designed to fit all sizes of modern-day carp rods. There's a 12-foot and a 13-foot size available, both offering loads of space for 50mm butt rings and the largest of big pit reels. Now, I've never seen so much space in a rod bag, and that's why I like it. The extra space makes it a doddle to get my rods in place, and both sizes offer excellent padding and protection. The outer fabric is 100% polyester, and both the 12-foot and 13-foot bags feature grab handles and a padded shoulder strap. Personally, I'd like to have seen an external pocket for my bank sticks and net, but this bag has been designed for its size and protection, which it most certainly has. The 12-foot size retails at $69.99 with a 13-foot at $74.99, but as always, a quick look on the net and you'll find them a few quid cheaper. For more info, check them out at avidcarp.com. God, these fish don't half fight well, especially the little ones. They put up a right scrap. Stay away from those other rods. Angry one again. Get him out of them reeds if I can. Oh. God. Right fight. What a fight. Oh. God, Benny. That will definitely do, boy. Thank you very much. Lovely. Wow. What a fight. What a fight. Let's let this train go by. Mega common. 45.4. So that is my biggest common from this lake so far. What a fish. It's almost like orange in appearance. Absolutely brutal fight. When I saw it I thought it was about mid-30, so to weigh in at 45.4, myself and Wayne had just weighed it. That is one big carp. Absolutely awesome. Superb fish. Oh. That's why we go carp fishing in April. Mega. Massive thanks to Wayne for the photographs as well.